Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm David Penn, research analyst with Finovate. We're here at FinovateFall in Times Square, New York. And joining me is Peter Zhou. He is the CEO and co-founder of Rutter. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, David.
So I think, to start us off, there are a lot of different companies here at FinovateFall. It seems like every year there's a new company coming from a new angle and so forth. Rutter is a company that I'm not especially familiar with, and I'm sure that some of our viewers might not be familiar with either. Could you tell us just a little bit about the company to get us started?
Yeah, sure, David. Are you familiar with the concept of unified API?
Yes.
Cool. So just like how Plaid is a unified API for banking data, Rutter aims to be the unified API for small business financial data. So our core systems of record that we are unifying for companies is commerce, payments, accounting, and ads data. And how customers use us is we basically help them provide customer-facing integrations into those systems of record that their customers use. So just to give a couple of customers as examples, we power a bunch of accounting automation for companies like Mercury and PayPal, and we power data for underwriting or supplier enablement for companies like Capital One or Float. So mostly fintechs and banks that do commercial business.
Interesting. Well, it's always interesting to figure out new solutions for small business, and those are a heck of some clients that you've got there as well that people have heard about. I want to talk, you mentioned supplier enablement. I want to talk a little bit more about that in particular. We understand that tackles a problem that's been around for quite some time, the idea of fragmented supplier data that makes it difficult for card growth. I'm wondering if you could talk about what changes have taken place in the market that make this something that really is coming of age right now.
Yeah. Are you familiar with like the use case of supplier enablement?
No,
Happy to just expand on that
Yeah.
too. So basically, like, think about the world of B2B payments, and most of business payments today are still surprisingly on check and bank payments. And supplier enablement refers to the process of taking an SMB's or mid-market company's vendor payments and optimizing those payments to be put on the right payment modality to maximize cash flow or business outcome. So most of that is transferring payments that are bank or check payments onto card payments. And your question originally was, what has changed about the world today that makes this possible, whereas previously it was hard to do? So you're right, it's been around, it's been a problem for a very long time. And I'd say there's two big challenges to doing supply enablement successfully, which is optimizing all of the business's payments onto card or the right payment modality. One is a data challenge. So a lot of that data remains locked up in accounting systems. Payment networks have access to payment data, but they don't understand necessarily who the vendor is or what's being spent or what other payment methods are available for businesses. And so accounting data is really the source of truth for a lot of that. And a lot of what we're building is opening up access to that data, which is often in a bunch of different formats. And that's why this unified API concept is so valuable. And then the second thing that I think is more relevant to what's going on today, so the way that a card issuer or a bank would switch payments previously is just entirely manual. So you basically have banks with these giant account manager teams, or they're partnering up with a massive call center, and they're manually calling or finding out what form to fill out for every single vendor of their businesses, and switching the payment methods for those businesses like that. And with all of the stuff around AI and agents today, a lot of those workflows are highly repetitive, low context workflows that we can automate now with AI. So we're finding a lot of success in automating switching payments and making more efficient what would previously take thousands of people in a call center to do.
Yeah, I mean, just the thought of all of that work sounds incredibly laborious and incredibly manual, and just the kind of thing if you can't automate, you definitely want to automate. One of the things I want to talk about, you mentioned at the outset the idea of Rutter as an API infrastructure layer sort of coming up. How does the supplier enablement take us beyond the connectivity issue to help customers understand that it really can drive card adoption, can drive revenue growth, these sorts of things?
Yeah. So Rutter has always been and will always be an API-first product. Our core business is API connectivity, so providing integrations into commerce systems, accounting systems for banks and fintechs. And then we've always planned on building out value-add products on top of that connectivity layer. Connectivity is a foundational part of the end job, which is really helping build better B2B products. And we're moving up the value stack to actually doing some of those workflows, where supply enablement is the first workflow that we're actually building end to end, as opposed to just providing connectivity for.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that we talk about supplier enablement, what's some of the ways that we can show that real impact for customers? And how can, again, we make it clear that it's not just about them getting better data, not that that's not important, but also, again, it's something that's going to really be able to grow revenues for them?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about what are the benefits of, I think the question is really, why would a business choose to use card payments over bank or check payments? And when you put it in that context, I think the value for both the bank as well as the customers are obvious. There's other value for vendors as well. I'd say like the main like ROI drivers. One is just direct revenue. So as you switch more payments onto card, the bank makes money off of interchange, and then passes some of that back to the business as cash back. So if you're trying to measure ROI, you're basically just looking at payments processed over card and percentage of just taking a cut of that as some cut to the bank and then some cut to the business. And then there's a bunch of not as directly quantifiable aspects of ROI related to fraud and controls. So being able to pay all of your spend on virtual cards allows you to control the amount of spend, helps you protect against fraud, ensures that those payments get received by the vendor instantaneously. So there's benefits for all like parties in the ecosystem for converting spend onto card payments. Yeah,
it definitely makes a great deal of sense. I just think it's sometimes important to maybe even underscore that, given the fact, as you say, that so many businesses are still haven't made that transition. And it seems to me that it's constantly making that point that this is really an area that's going to stand to provide with a number of benefits, even if it seems like a laborious transition to have to make, that it's a quite rewarding one.
Yeah. One of our customers has said like the aha moment for their businesses moving from check to bank payments or check to card payments is the first time that they have check fraud. And they're like, okay, well, time to use a better method.
We got that one. Excellent. We talked a little bit about AI and technologies of that sort a moment ago. I want to talk a little bit more about agentic AI specifically in the context of, again, some of that work that you talked about, that manual tasks and these sorts of things. Can you talk about how it can actually help customers switch vendors to card, as well as how we can position folks to understand that agentic AI is safe, it's enterprise ready, it is really something that you should be considering embarking upon?
Yeah, I think that's a very broad question. Let me break it down into, why don't I break it down first into what we're trying to do with AI within this product, and then second, like how we're safeguarding the capabilities of AI to ensure that we're processing payment information securely, confidentially, and yeah, we're just acting responsibly with AI. So in terms of like, what does AI actually allow us to do here? There's so many different, one of the hard or maybe labor intensive aspects of supplier enablement is the act of payment switching. So once we know that a given vendor is able to accept card payments with our data, how do we actually switch a business's payment modality from bank payments to card payments for that vendor? And there are many different ways that vendors allow payment switching. We think of it both in terms of internal methods of payment switching, like logging into your ERP and changing the preferred payment method for a vendor within your ERP, which actually does the payment processing, or external, where you are calling up a vendor, you are going into like a Stripe form and changing your payment details in that Stripe form, or you're going into the vendor's dashboard, or maybe it's actually an invoice-based payment and you're actually just processing that payment over invoice differently. And so where AI fits into this picture is basically the routing of figuring out exactly where we need to be submitting the payment change details, whether it's within someone's ERP, which is what we currently do today with our core integrations infrastructure, or whether it's in a payment form or on the vendor's website, which all of the new agentic capabilities allow us to do. So The routing is really the core component for AI,
Right.
and then the actual delivery of the payment method, that's where we just use just normal software, and we have all of the controls around SOC 2, ISO, PCI compliance. There's other frameworks that allow us to tokenize card information, as well as hide that information from AI. So AI basically acts as the router, and then we basically take over once we're sure that we're in the right spot to deliver that new payment information.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting, interesting. Again, a lot of very interesting concepts that you brought up. I think folks that are not familiar with Rutter are going to want to become familiar with Rutter because you do a lot of interesting things. I'm thinking maybe by way of wrapping up, if somebody's at Finovate, they've just heard a little bit about this, and they're sort of getting a sense of what's the big picture that Rutter is engaged in, what would be a very short, sort of shorthand way that you could explain to somebody what it is that Rutter does, who's maybe here at Finovate for the first time and learning about Rutter for the first time?
Yeah, I'd say, just in a nutshell, we are the unified API, or if you're not familiar with that term, we're the connectivity layer for B2B financial data. And so if you are interacting with your business customers, and you need to build a product that interacts with their customer data, we're an easy way to get connected and read and write their customer data in a single API.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you very much for spending a little time with us and getting helping us get to know a little bit about Rutter.
Cool, it was a pleasure, David. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you as well.